Hello?
Hello,
All right.
are you there?
I'm there.
All right.
Hello.
Trying to get my best angle here.
There's the chief.
I don't have a best angle.
Bella is joining us. I'm having my my dinner. I found a bag of pretzels, so.
I was on my own tonight, so mine was a pot pie.
Oh.
Very healthy.
I settled with some taste. It was really good.
Was it?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Chief, I put out a press release today telling people that it's okay if they put Bills support flags or banners on Bradner Stadium fence. So,
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to, stir some interest, get some support going there. And keep our fingers crossed for the best.
Are city employees still dressing up in Bills gear tomorrow? Are they doing that again?
Yeah, yeah. We'll do another picture out front, so. Mhm.
Let's hope we get to do it next week too.
There you go. I like that.
One game at a time. And not
Did you guys
gonna-
see that? Did you guys see the snowman that the guy like in West Clarksville made?
I saw that, yeah.
Alan.
Mhm.
Ken, how are you?
Good. Good evening. How are you guys?
Hey, how you doing?
Okay. How you doing? Okay?
Well, yeah. I mean, considering everything,
Yeah. How's retirement?
Best thing ever.
Really?
Thanks. Thanks, Ken.
Yeah,
Someday I'll be old enough to retire.
I always say it's a bad day at home is better than a good day at work any day.
Yeah. I thought I would be hearing from.
Excuse me?
I thought I would be hearing from Jeff a little sooner than this, but I haven't. Must be he's enjoying it too.
Yeah. Sometimes it gets a little boring though, because you run out of things to do. And I'm
Yeah.
not really like a handyman, a fixer up around the house. I don't run around fixing different things every day.
Well, that's what you got Barry for.
Yeah, that's what Barry, I told Barry he's going to enjoy it because he'll have so much free time to do stuff like that.
Well, you know what? In today's day and age, you can go on YouTube and learn how to do anything, fix anything. So,
Yeah, that's pretty much true.
yeah,
I did put a fence up this summer though, all by myself,
well, that's good.
which is big for me.
Hey.
I took my entire dryer apart, the drum out, everything out, and fixed my dryer myself, and I was pretty proud of myself for that.
Really, that's a impressive job.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I got a
I'm
little
gonna look
worried.
about it. So I would have did that. I just bought another one.
Yeah.
Me too.
I was like, that's too much for me.
I always have parts left over when I take anything apart. So. Karen, you there?
I'm here.
Okay. And Kim, you with us?
I am. Good to see everybody.
Good to see everybody. It looks like Aaron Wolf is joining us and Vernon's joining us.
Della.
Barry's, but there's Della. She had joined us. She's connecting audio right now.
Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Hey,
Vernon.
Vernon, how are you?
Good, good.
Bloom, we're getting,
Folks,
I really like that idea about putting up the bill stuff on stadium. That's nice. That's a great idea.
let's do it. Let's get it. I
Yeah,
hope people
everybody.
take advantage. It'll be nice to have it, a lot of stuff there. So. Bird, you can even,
Can I come up with my jersey on?
yeah, you can come up with your Bills jersey on, so. I think I got one of
No.
the pictures.
Mine's burgundy and gold.
That's all right.
Aaron, thank you for the information on the Alfred Academy.
They do a really good job, and because they just opened recently, they wait until they get 20 or 25 and then they start it. I do know they run a lot in the summer and probably here while students are off. They had a huge break this year. I don't even think students go back until I think maybe this week, which is really late for us, but they seem to do a good job, and any avenue where you can recruit to me is a good thing. So.
Yeah, I think right now they're almost full. I talked to Chief Birch from Cuba. So,
Well, you know what would be really nice, and if you look at the link I gave you, there's an advisory committee. And I have always found as a recruiter, and I recruited for my programs and things for years, to get on the advisory board or go do a specific lesson. One of your experts in your programs maybe has some extra education, something that they would go in and guest lecture and things like that. And you form a connection. And then they start thinking, well, yeah, this would be a place I really like to go. We all know we have a great community. I think we do
Amen.
exceptional.
Okay, let's see who's joined us. We got Aaron Wolf. He's sitting out in front of the high school without a jacket on. Oh, you must be cold.
It's a little chilly.
Is it homeless Huskies tonight?
Barry, you with us?
yes, sir.
Ty, we got you there. Okay, Daryl.
Hi, Mayor.
Okay, Ann. Caught Ann in the middle of a sip there. JR, you've got Darren with you, right? Okay. Kevin, you're with us?
Yep.
And Della, you're with us. Okay. Who else we got coming? We got I'm not sure if everybody's here yet or not. We have a couple more seconds here.
Sorry about last week, Bill, and everybody, but we had a board meeting at the
That's
same
not-
time.
It's understandable. We're gonna have some, people are gonna have some conflicts. I'm just checking my list off here. Okay, let's see who we got. Anybody else? All right, I think we'll get going. We got a couple of people that, Greg Carey will not be joining us tonight. Dan McGraw will not be joining us tonight. Mickey George will not be joining us tonight. Somebody else just check in. And the Reverend Hall has resigned from the committee. He's got conflicts that he just can't free up from. So he wants to wish everybody good luck, and we do thank him for his participation. And he says he's always there if we need anything from him. So, okay. And see that there. So, okay. So I think we'll get going. We'll start off first with there's been the police incident report, police arrest report, and the domestic violence report has been that was sent to everybody. Did everybody get a copy of that? It was sent out
Yes,
the other
yes.
day. Okay, any questions on those forms? I know there was some questions on what statistical information do the police department record? So I'm gonna have Captain Marshfeller just talk a little bit about those forms and how they're filled out. So Mike, could you help us out with that?
Sure. The case report and the arrest report, those are pretty self-explanatory. But if you have any questions, ask me. I've been dealing with them for 25 years. So if you have questions, please ask. The incident report, that's something that needs some explanation. Here in New York State, domestic incident is any incident between family members, married couple, former intimate partners, someone related by blood or marriage. So that encompasses quite a large group. So whenever we're called to what is either labeled as a domestic that we go to, or if we arrive there, it turns out to be a domestic, even though it wasn't called in that way, the state mandates that we do one of those forms. And along that same vein, if we get called to a domestic and it turns out not to be a domestic, if it was just a husband and wife screaming over the Bills game, we still, because it was dispatched as a domestic, we were required to do that paperwork. So as you saw that's a multi-page form, and it takes a little bit of time.
Does anybody have any questions on the forms, if you got a chance to look at them? Okay, the second item that, let's see, let's see. Yeah, okay. I reached out to Mary O'Leary, who is she's mental health. She's the director of the mental health, county mental health over there. And she will be coming on next Thursday to answer questions. So we'll bring her on as a guest, and we'll do the first part of the meeting so that we can she'll say what they do, talk about. One thing we discussed just briefly was that they do have an on-call worker, and that the police department can reach out to at any hour, any hour of the day or night. So she's going to explain all of that. So she will be on next week for the first part of the meeting. So I thought tonight we've been talking about a lot of things, and I thought tonight I would put it out there to what haven't we talked about yet, and try to solicit some comments there about what we have not talked about yet. So Karen, go ahead.
When I was reviewing the policy, and that the A16, the use of chokeholds, probably should be strengthened. It clearly says that we, don't use them or don't endorse them or something, but state law that came through somewhere in June through Cuomo's office on the ban of use of chokeholds. That was A16 policy and procedure, and the use of force area was under the letter H, and it was the use of chokeholds. And then if you go down a little lower than that, in number 8, it talks about the prohibited use, that we shall not utilize that, but you might want to strengthen that. And then part 2 of that would be discipline along with that. I didn't see a whole lot on discipline steps that go through, but I did notice that, and I just thought maybe we should just strengthen that up, being that the state banned them this last summer.
Okay. Anybody else? Barry, go ahead.
Well, do you want to address what Karen just brought up, or do you want other topics?
No, go ahead. Other topics. I'm sorry.
Other topic?
Yeah, I was thinking there. Yeah.
Okay, then I don't have anything.
Well, Barry, if you
Well,
have a
no, go
comment,
ahead. Say whatever what your comments are. Go ahead.
Okay, so if we want to address that, that's a big can of worms. That needs to be, I think, a totally separate meeting. that we have a long time to discuss that, because is that mandated for all the police departments? I think that we're putting our officers at risk if we ban what are perceived to be chokeholds. We need to define what a chokehold is, because what most police officers are referring to as a vascular neck restraint is not a chokehold. They're two different animals. And so when we're throwing these out as a catch-all phrase, if we ban any touching of the neck, we're asking police officers to use a higher level of force in order to restrain a suspect. And so we're not only endangering our officers, but we're endangering our citizens as well. So I would propose that we address that topic. We're a meeting where we have enough time to really thoroughly discuss this and explain what a chokehold is as opposed to a vascular neck restraint. Unless you just want to talk about it today. But to try to, I think it's a really complex topic that people just kind of sweep over and use vague terms without fully understanding what's actually happening with a quote unquote chokehold. Since it seems like
I would go with that.
a true chokehold is attacking the airway, the trachea, and nobody advocates that. I don't know any police department that advocates that or is using that. But a vascular neck restraint is something that's totally different. And you can do a vascular neck restraint, the suspect's out in 7 seconds, you cuff them, all is good. So I'm just kind of throwing it out there. Do we want to talk about that now, or do we want to have a separate time where we actually take the time to be educated on what it is that we're talking about?
Well, there is a new law. The law bans the practice of using chokeholds by law enforcement by making.
So do we want to, is that everybody? Is that every police department?
Fine.
Everybody in New York State.
Yeah, yeah. And this, it makes the use of a chokehold a criminal offense if it causes serious physical injury or death. So.
Okay, so can you read that again, sir?
Yeah. Chokehold law, ban chokeholds. This law bans the practice of using chokeholds by law enforcement by making use of a chokehold a criminal offense if it causes serious physical injury or death. So we'd have to get into the entire law and how it's written. So Mike or Ron, do you have any thoughts on that? Is it the new law?
My understanding is, and I agree with Barry, I think the term chokehold is misunderstood. But I don't believe the differentiations are taken into consideration when it came down from up on high. And I think that's what we're stuck with. Barry, I agree 100% with you, but I think it's come down that that's just the way it is.
So are they using the term chokehold, and is that defined as a vascular neck restraint?
What I can do is I can look into that more and I can contact you with that. I don't have it right in front of me, but my understanding is the state doesn't really differentiate in this particular case, but I'll look into that, and I would look forward to talking to you about it.
Because I think some people were advocating, I know in other states had advocated no touching of the neck at all, and that's how they kind of covered that. And so if that's what they're talking about, well, now we're really asking for issues. But if they're saying chokes, and a choke is defined as an airway obstruction as opposed to a vascular neck restraint, fortunately, I don't know that have you guys even had any issues with that in the Olean Police Department?
We never use
Fortunately,
chokeholds.
Okay, yeah, so fortunately, we haven't had to deal with that. But if we did, I think we're really asking for increased use of force that's going to be potential problems for our police officers and for our citizens. Just my 2 cents of doing this every day, doing chokes.
Barry, I'll look more into that. And when I come into work tomorrow morning, I'll do a little more research with that. And like I said, I'd love to sit down and talk to you about it.
Thank you,
And
sir.
that's what I'm basically saying is, what the law says, make sure that our policy defines what it is,
Right.
appropriately, so that we don't come back on one incident, 3 years from now, and illegalities behind it. Clearly spelled out, clearly written out, so that the understanding's there in the policy. For the city's protection and along with the officer's protection is my theory behind that. I'm not saying we do it. I'm not enforcing it or endorsing it.
And the citizens.
I'm just saying, let's look at the policy and make sure that what came down from New York State is reflected in our policy.
Yeah, we got Della, and then we'll get JR.
All right, Mike, if you let us all know, because I didn't know there was a difference. And I'm a WWW fan from way back. I didn't know there was a difference. Oh, what's so funny? Just because I got the gray hair?
Oh, I saw the destroyer unmasked. Remember the destroyer when he came? You remember they had wrestling in the stadium and that here? Yeah, we had the destroyer here.
Okay, I don't remember it. All right, yeah. Awesome. I go as far back as Bobo Brazil.
Yes, I remember all of them.
And Gorgeous George. Yeah.
Yep.
I got you beat.
All right. Where's JR? You go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna basically ask Karen like what she was proposing, but I guess her last statement, she kind of cleared it up, like what exactly was being proposed, like as far as shoring it up or strengthening the wording. So I guess like she cleared that up in her last one, is just better definitions, like, and I agree with Barry. I mean, and to compound on that, and like Mike said, I don't recall personally like any issue of it, but at the same time, it should be shored up as far as like exact definitions and things like that, because I mean, there's a big difference between a vascular neck restraint, like Barry was saying, and then like a Darce choke or a rear naked or a triangle or a crucifix or something like that, that is going to actually cut off your airway if you're doing it improperly.
Okay.
That's all I was going to say before Karen made her last statement, as I was just going to ask her like what was she proposing exactly, but she cleaned it up.
Yeah, I just think we need to clarify and make sure that our policy reflects the law, basically.
Okay, Della, go ahead.
Okay, I don't mean to make this levity, but in case you young people don't know, this is Sting. Yes.
I know Gorgeous George and Sting. Big wrestling fan.
Yeah, there you go. There
You
you go.
left out Elio DePaulo.
Boom.
And great salad dressing.
All right. All right.
Sorry.
All right, let's continue on. What else is
Burden.
Mayor,
Yep, Vernon.
a few things. One, I did security for Sting and Ric Flair back in the day.
Woo!
But as far as the chokes, and I'm with Karen. We do need to specify on that one if we're gonna. I mean, I understand the term chokes is supplied loosely, like automatic weapons kind of covers everything, and it doesn't. So with the chokes, I mean, Barry is a black belt. Don't know what degree. I've had probably 5 years collectively of Taekwondo and Shotokan. And I know there's different styles of chokes, but as far as using chokes, if Olean has a policy and they're saying all chokes, then and the state has that as well, then I think that pretty much covers it. Maybe we shouldn't be doing chokes. If we're going to specify, then I guess we need to set aside half a meeting or whatever to discuss it in detail and figure out what it is we are looking to allow and not allow. But I am definitely not for chokes, especially with things that have been going on lately. I think there's other methods and tactics to taking down someone. Doesn't matter the size. You can do arm grabs. There's numerous things you can do. So that's where I stand on that one. Thanks.
Okay. Also, I forgot that you were also, I think, did everybody receive the, some statistical information that Mike Marsfeller sent out today, or I can't remember, Ron sent it out or the chief sent it out or Mike, but it gives you the breakdown on the 2020 arrest percentages for the patrol division. So did everybody get it? Would have looked like something like that there. It was sent out. Okay. I wrote down review of the chokehold, more defined and or better definitions. So, okay.
Mayor, can I ask a
Yep.
question? So I believe a chokehold is defined by any air or blood restriction. Am I correct, Barry, in that, or any of the officers?
It depends on who you're talking to.
The
When you're
law
talking, usually most people that are educated in police defensive tactics, they're referring to a blood restraint as a vascular neck restraint. A choke is usually not even used. The term's not even used, or it's avoided to be used in 2020, 2021. Anybody who's current, who's not teaching 1970s tactics, know the difference, and they teach the difference. My concern also would be with everybody who thinks that they're a WWE fan, Della, or or an MMA UFC champion. Everybody thinks that they know how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
They try to put a police officer in some sort of a rear naked choke, quasi vascular neck restraint. Police officers need to know how to defend against that as well. But a vascular neck restraint is occluding the blood supply to the brain so that they pass out in 7 seconds, not kneeling on them for however many minutes we're talking about from before. So an airway choke is crushing or occluding the blood or the airway from to the lungs, which takes much, much longer for the person to become unconscious. So it's much more dangerous as opposed to a vascular neck restraint. We do vascular neck restraints every day, all around the country, all around the world. People that do jujitsu like us are doing vascular neck restraints every day, and people are not dying from them.
It's my
when they're done
understanding
inappropriately
that
and people don't know how to defend against them. That's the problem.
it's my understanding that when they defined the chokehold law in that, that's what it was, is a
It could
blood
be, but that's what we need to
restriction
clarify.
or air restriction.
Yeah, that's what we need to clarify. I don't know. I haven't seen the exact verbiage and what they're declaring. And that's the unfortunate thing, is when you got people who don't understand the difference that make these blanket statements, chokeholds. Well, shoot, that's like Vernon said, automatic weapon. You know, what's that mean?
Right.
Okay, so Captain Marshfield will do some research on the new law and get that out to everybody. So, okay, what else we got? JR?
Yeah, Bill, this would be, somebody can correct me, but this would have been underneath the Eric Garner Anti-Chokehold Act, correct?
Yes.
It's defined in there. It says that the use would occur when a police or peace officer using a chokehold or similar restraint applies pressure to the throat or windpipe of a person, hindering breathing or intake of air, and causes serious injury or death.
Well, that's a different animal.
It's under the, I just looked it up under the Senate one where the Eric Garner anti-chokehold was defined.
So that's an airway as opposed to vascular neck restraint.
Yeah, it's defined as the windpipe and air intake.
Yeah. So I'd say vascular neck restraints are good to go, if that's all they're talking about.
There's nothing else in there, Barry, that said anything about vascular.
We probably need to do a powwow and together and actually take a look at it.
Okay. Okay, we'll add that to next week's, okay. Okay, what else? Vernon?
While we're on this subject, I know I had in notes that I wrote earlier about defensive tactics. Barry even mentioned it. If you're going to basically cripple a police officer from defending themselves by not being able to use a chokehold or a vascular hold, they should be trained in defensive tactics. That whether how extensive that would go, I don't know. That's something for us to discuss. And maybe they've had some training, but you know, any type of training of that nature is good. Also, performance evaluations and appraisals. I know that was on my list. As far as the physical, I mean, sometimes you see police officers and they just don't look like they could run a mile and a half in, you know, 7 to 10 minutes. It's just not going to work. And I know there are 1 or 2 on Olean's force that I'm pretty confident that I can outrun them. And I'm not big on running. I hate running. So that's something that I think physical presence. I think if you're going to do something where you're in this type of field, you should have some pride in how you carry yourself, your fitness, and so forth, and try to hold yourself to a higher standard. That's it.
Okay, what was the first one? I'm sorry, physical fitness and what else?
Defensive tactics
Mm-hmm.
and physical fitness, along with appraisals, any type of appraisal, performance appraisals. I looked at some of the performance appraisals for the police officers. Actually, I think I have it here. I thought was weak at best. I used to do performance appraisals for years, actually. And actually, one of the questions on here, when they look at the performance appraisal, is the physical, how you look physically. So it's just something to think about.
All right, couple of the just thinking out loud here, those may be union issues. So we have to
Maybe.
deal with them. So, yeah. So some of the stuff that I know, some of the stuff we talked about in these things could be union issues that we would have to overcome. So, okay. So who had, Kenny, you had your hand up?
Kenny's been waving at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted, like, what was Barry saying? I'm not sure that the training there is there to differentiate what you're talking about. The officers, we would have to actually probably, I'm guessing, Mike, if I'm right or wrong, have to have a little bit more training on the differences between types of chokeholds. I know for 24 years working inside the federal prison, they never taught us anything about grabbing someone's neck. And in there, it's all hands-on stuff. So it's like we never put our hands on someone's neck or throat area, whether you want to call it a choke or not. That just wasn't taught. So if we're going to get in between you got to differentiate between what you're saying. There's going to have to be a lot more training.
Yeah, I had advocated that, I think, on our very first meeting, that police officers certainly need more training. And not because they're doing anything bad, it's just that how often do you firing your pistol or your gun. So there's that. And then the misconception comes that just because you wrap your arm around somebody's neck, that's a choke. But if so, yeah, there needs to be enough training to differentiate between what anatomical structure are we addressing. And that just comes with doing it all the time. And shoot, I'd be happy if they came and trained with me every week. That'd be cool, so the more you do it, the more comfortable you are with it. So you're not just kind of going blindly trying to attack something that you don't know where it's at. So
I guess
I agree. I think we're all on the same page.
We're kind of probably talking about a legal issue more than what we should be getting into. It's probably a state law that they basically can't do it. No matter what the differentiation is, the state's just saying, don't do it at all. So that might be something we need to clarify first before, I mean, there's no need to move on.
I think JR just defined that though. You know, that.
Yeah, I think we need to
with airline.
I think we need to let the attorney define that.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Agreed.
That's some of those things that city attorney and attorney needs to decide that we collectively can't really decide.
Agreed.
A lot of that, remember go ahead, Daryl, then I'll talk. Go ahead, Daryl.
Well, it's an unrelated point, but I wondered if the Olean Police Department had limits on how long shifts can run in normal circumstances. I would presume that an officer being exhausted, having to run a double shift or a triple shift or however that works, would put them more at risk of not meeting the obligations of their job to the normal expectation that they would have of themselves and put them at risk. And I just wondered what limits there are in terms of protecting them to make sure that they're always alert and up to the task.
Chief or Mike, you have any comments on that?
You're mute, Chief.
I was muted. So normally if we're gonna run short on a shift that's coming up, someone calls in sick and we're at our minimum, we'll mandatory someone to come out and work. We don't make people work because our shifts are 10 hours. We don't mandatory someone to work 20 hours or 3 shifts, 30 hours. You know, we may hold someone over for a couple hours until we can get someone to come in, but we don't hold anyone over for, you know, a double shift.
That's a good policy.
Yeah.
JR, did I see your hands up? Did I?
Yep, Darren.
Darren, go ahead.
Man, so much stuff. As far as like I'll start with what Barry was saying last. Proper training, you know, as far as the differences, if you're gonna train on a restraint of the neck area. I mean, somebody who doesn't know, and Barry, like, you know, jump in or whatever, but somebody who doesn't know, if you saw me throw someone in a rear naked, you think that I'm putting them in a chokehold. But when you do that properly, what you're doing is you're actually restricting the carotid.
Right.
To get them to pass out or either tap because they're starting to lose consciousness, but not lose the ability to breathe. Correct?
Yep.
Right. So then bouncing back to like what Vern was saying, I mean, I definitely agree with him. And this is something that I've been saying for quite a while, that when you pass your PT entry and then pass your PT exit, I think for at least your first 5 years of your career on a force, you should have to basically re-qual your runs. And obviously, like you qual at your range every so often, you should have to re-qual your run. Because like Vern was saying, I mean, I'm not a big runner. I'm more of like a sprinter. But I mean, there's definitely some guys, and it's not even saying just Olean Police Department. I mean, there's a lot of police departments that, I mean, there's not a chance that they're catching me. There's not a chance that they're catching a lot of guys, you know, and it's like they get complacent. But if they had a reason, you know, then that would be something. And it could also be like an incentive, you know, to re-qualing, you know, it could be incentivized a small portion. But I've had the fortune of being invited to the Columbus Police Department in Columbus, Ohio, to tour their facility and do like a meet and greet with all of the brass. And before going there, when I was going through the process with Cattaraugus County Sheriff's Department, it was like a thing that I kept hearing during that process from some of them is, you know, we've got the best academy in the country. And when I went to that Columbus Police Department, I can tell you right now, Cattaraugus County Academy looked like a day at daycare. I'm not even kidding you. Like their facility looked like an FBI facility. And in the, just staying on the topic of defensive tactics, they do DT every week. Cattaraugus County Sheriff's Department does DT for 1 week of their entire academy. And they do DT for every week of the entire academy. They do striking. So in other words, it's boxing. They do grappling. They do jujitsu. Obviously, like your range and everything like that. So, I mean, and the instructors definitely knew their stuff. And most of the people that were coming out that I saw there that had also been invited, they were also in a good enough shape that you could tell that they would be able to handle something like that. But it's because of the high standards that they have and the different things that they put in place to make it to where you're not coming to this if you don't have a slightest idea of what's going to be asked of you, or that you might be able to make it through this. So I think that's something that every police department or every academy across the country should be doing, is making not just range requalifications. It should be requalifications on quite a few other things for at least a minimum of like your first 5 years, and then it's every so often after that.
Yeah, that would be, the Division of Criminal Justice Services sets the standards for the academies.
Mm-hmm.
That's done at state level. So that would have to be, that's something that recommendation to go to our legislators and our state legislators and look for some change there. So,
yeah, because I mean, like some of the other guys were saying before, if you've worked a whole shift, or some police departments, which as Daryl was saying, it's a good thing, and Ron had mentioned, they work 10-hour shifts and they don't run doubles, which is a good thing, because if you take away a lot of their defensive tactic capabilities, then you're getting yourself into a realm of more trigger happy clowns. Like, honestly, like, because that's what you make yourself at that point, is a clown, like when you just start getting an itchy trigger finger. But that would be no fault of their own at that point, because they've had a lot of stuff taken away from them that they could utilize.
okay. We're doing defensive tactics. Are we not, Chief? Didn't we have an instructor now? You have to take yourself off mute.
Sorry about that. We do. Bill Beggs is doing our defensive tactics. When did he start, Mike? Like 2 years ago?
Yeah, he went to instructor development school as a prerequisite to go to state certification for defensive tactics instructor, which is a very difficult school. He's come back and he's been training us in defensive tactics. And I just want to throw out, as far as physical fitness, the body armor and the gun belts might be a little deceiving. Some of us are in a little better shape than you might think.
Yeah, Captain, I'm fully aware of all the extra gear, and yeah, I'm pretty confident a couple of them are not the case.
Mike beat me in the 5K, but I don't like running either, Vernon.
Okay, so right now we've got issues I have to take a look at, which could be contractual, would be, and it's also civil service sets the standards also. So physical fitness, evaluations, you can always take a look at bettering the evaluation process. And as for defensive tactics, yes, that could be another training issue. So we can incorporate that into our plan. So what else we got? Thoughts?
The Civilian Review Board. I know we're going to come back and talk about that, but that is still on the list.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's still on the list. That could be a recommendation as part of this committee, that an establishment of a civilian review board. Then, if that's how the committee, the majority of the committee feels, then we can put that on there as part of our plan. So. did I tell you Mickey George wasn't gonna be here tonight? So I can't remember if I told everybody that.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, okay. Okay, moving right along. What other issues or thoughts that you might have that we have not talked about yet? We've talked a lot about what, the police department. We talked about what the police department is doing. Is there anything else that we have not talked about that we can answer questions about the police department? Kenny, was that itch in your eye or did you put your hand up? Go ahead, Vernon, go ahead.
I remember writing something down about the taser. I thought the procedure was written out very well. I do have a question though, either the captain or the chief can answer this. Is there any repercussions for usage or not documenting usage? I don't recall seeing that part in there. Maybe that's something that's kept in-house or something, which is understandable. So I just wanted to clarify whether or not there was or not.
Chief, you want me to grab this?
Sure.
If someone misuses a taser or doesn't document it, there are repercussions.
Okay.
There is a procedure in the police contract on how disciplines have to be handled, so.
Question, Chief.
Ty,
Mr. Marshall, you was speaking the other week about protests. Could you tell us like what your guys' procedure as far as if there are protests, what you guys do to control the crowd?
I'm not going to speak about that. I don't think that's tactically sound.
I would agree.
So could you speak to what type of things that you use? Like, do you use, water cannons? Do you use, rubber bullets? Like,
If you look at the protests that we had over the past year, that's probably a good idea of how we handle it.
okay. Well, that is something that we're supposed to discuss, just so you know.
yeah, yeah.
Whether or not you feel
I'll
like
tell
that's
you right
supposed
now,
to be
we don't-
discussed, we're
Yeah.
supposed to.
Yeah, I don't think we want to get into tactical, where the way the police department handles some tactical things. But as for protest, it's everybody's right to have a peaceful protest. It's when and I think our police department, I think they did one heck of a job this past year on the protests that we did have, on handling it and making sure that not only the general public, but also that the protesters were safe. So,
Yeah, not saying that there was a problem. I'm just going through the book like we're supposed to. And tactical has nothing to do with what types of, if you're using equipment, what kind of equipment you're using. You're not telling us no strategy, no plan like that. So there's no need to act like that. We could just be grown folks and talk about what kind of equipment that we use.
Our biggest equipment was our mouth, just, not letting things get out of hand, letting the protesters know that, we were going to try to keep them safe, giving them the room that they needed, trying to divert traffic, if that helps at all.
Maybe I can come talk to you guys personally, because you guys seem like you're scared to say what you would like, what kind of equipment it specifically talks about in the book. Did you guys read the book?
Hey, Ty, you would be more than welcome to come and see me anytime if you want to. Next week, if you want to set up a time, I'd love to talk to you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So just give me a call and let's set up a time. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Sounds good.
Barry?
Again, I think as far as semantics go on, words mean something. So is there a difference between a demonstration and a protest? So we had a lot of I would say demonstrations this past year. that I think were not only handled well on behalf of the police, but I think those that were coordinating them did a phenomenal job on getting the message out that this is not about violence. And so those that coordinated and headed those did a great job as well on trying to get the word out without being pushing the line towards violence. Is there any sort of permits that are needed or required with the city in order for people to do that, to be standing in the medians and the roundabouts and those types of things?
We didn't give out any
No.
permits.
No, we don't have a permit process to hold a rally or a protest or that. So, if you want to go by, if you want to go by the letter of the law, those who were obstructing traffic could have been dealt with, but our guys did a phenomenal job in making sure that traffic flowed, and that people were safe, and that it didn't get out of hand. So there's a lot of credit due to the Olean Police Department for that.
And those that participated, I think there was a mutual respect there. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, they even they marched. They went different routes. We had a police car in front of them, a police car behind them, and they had a peaceful protest, and that's what we want to see. So I know a lot of bigger cities there's a permit process and that, but no, we that was a first for us too.
Was the police department or anybody in the city notified that these were going to happen, or was it just via social media that you knew because everybody else in the city knew?
Pretty much social media. I think the one event that was at over in Lincoln Park, I can't remember the gentleman who organized it, but he did come forward and advise us that here's what he was planning, here's what he was going to do. I can't remember that guy's name.
Leo.
No, it
Leo.
wasn't.
Leo Walters.
Yeah, there was. No, it was. That was the informational one they did.
Stephen Campbell did quite a bit of it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The one Leo organized was the informational one, I believe.
Yeah, that was
Yes.
that franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we got. We talked about taser policy, and now protest or rallies. Police plan, I guess. But just to put your mind at ease, we don't have any water cannons, so.
Okay.
Okay.
The fire department does, don't they? They
I
have
do,
an
I do
off-road
have
work-
a question on a different subject. The domestic violence application. I was speaking to some advocates about that, and they were saying that when the incident is reported to the newspaper or onto social media, there's an address of where the incident happened, and they don't think that the address should be on there because it notifies people where the victim lives or wherever that incident happened. Could you guys tell me anything about that?
I'm not aware of anything to where we've ever redacted any information on a domestic like that.
Well, I don't believe, we have the reports here and the press comes in to look at them. We can't control what they put in the paper.
That would actually, that information is foilable also. So I'm not sure. Maybe that's a question for the city attorney to take a look at, or the DA. Daryl, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I don't know. I would just caution making sure that any postings are done responsibly and accurately.
Hey, Ty, is that in the newspaper that they're putting addresses?
Yes, that's what they told me, that the
Wow.
address of the incident would be there, and then that notifies people where the victim lives.
Sure.
So they wanted me to ask about that today.
Mhm. Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of times those are already out on Facebook, you know, with things that are going on in neighborhoods and stuff. But we could take a look at that. I don't, I've been away for so long. What about the new law with domestic violence? Does that give privacy to the victims?
But usually if it's a domestic, whoever the suspect is would know where the victim lives. If it's a domestic, it's someone that is related or intimate partner. So they would already know the address where the victim lives. I mean, if they went into a shelter, we wouldn't give out that address, I'm not sure what they're talking about.
I think I think the question is on a privacy issue and I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, Ty, is it kind of a labeling issue?
The way that they were explaining it to me, it's more of a retaliation. It's letting the victim know where that know where the victim lives, and then the aggressor has friends and people that can go see this person, and they were just worried about that kind of stuff. I
Okay,
guess there was really an incident that just happened recently that was in the paper about, and the lady's address was in there and stuff, and people they didn't feel comfortable with that. They thought that they thought that the police did it. So knowing that that they're not the ones giving the information, that the newspaper are just printing it, then maybe they'll feel better that it's not the police.
yeah. Tell them, Chief, you want to tell them how the Times Herald comes in? I believe they still come in every day. Reporter comes in and takes a look at the incident reports and the blotters, and then they determine what they want for news. So it's not like we don't send them a press release with all the arrests and all the news. They come in and they look through our blotters and the arrest reports and all that. So
Yeah, they decide what they want to print and what they don't want to print. So we have to make all the reports available to them.
Last week, we talked about transparency and what would be on the websites and that type of stuff.
mhm.
What if there's just a comment regarding that as well? Because I think it's probably assumed that the police turns over reports to the newspaper or whoever, and they are turning the information over. If we're more transparent, revealing that the police aren't releasing it, it's the newspaper coming in, reading through it, and it's up to them on what to report. That maybe it kind of takes some of the onus off of the police department and onto the newspaper.
Yeah. Now, there is times that a press release will be sent out if it's a major crime or a major incident. Then the police department will send out a press report on that. But that's, I guess, an example there would be, God forbid, but a serious assault or an attempted murder or a murder or something like that. Then police, we would put that our investigators, Bob Blasky would send out a press release on that. But other than that, the press comes in and they take a look at the book. So, JR?
I just had a question, Ron, or even Mike. So they come in and look at that paper, but could somebody from the general public come in and look at the same papers? And I see you shaking your head no, Mike. So what would be the difference as to why I would have to foil it and they don't?
Well, because they're the press. I mean, and I don't have a textbook answer for you, JR. Since I've come on, since Bill was a police officer, the press has always come in. Now, for John Q. Public to come in, they would have to have a tie to it for me to show them. I wouldn't, if you were to come in and say, hey, I heard Ty Malone got in some trouble. I want to know his address. Oh, hey, no, you go through, if you file a FOIL or whatever, but no, I'm not just going to turn over other people's
No,
information.
I'm not saying you would, Mike. That I'm just asking the difference as to why I would have to FOIL for the information that Ty is, asking the privacy issues on, and why the press doesn't. That's it.
Yeah.
JR,
Yeah.
what it is, if your name is on that report, generally, we will give you a copy of the report. If your name isn't on the report, then you'd have to FOIL for it.
The press, I think there's a section under the freedom of information that the press has access to has to be given reasonable access to your records, so.
Without the proper foiling like somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Mhm.
Start a blog.
What's that?
I said start a blog and get press documents.
Well, I'm not looking to start a blog. I'm just asking a legitimate question on the difference of obtaining information.
Yeah.
No, good question, JR.
There's certain aspects that the press has a right to a lot of this information. I think you see all the time, like your news stations and that will, depending on what it is, will FOIL for information that is not given to them. And the courts very seldom rule against the press receiving stuff. So.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
So anybody else? What do we got? So we need to talk about, we want to talk about, once we get to chokehold law, we want to talk more about that. We want to talk about defensive tactics, more physical fitness. I got to check on the civil service and contractual evaluations. Protect, okay.
Mayor, I remember reading both of those contracts, and I don't recall anything in there on that. I remember Captain was good with the information on the contracts. I don't recall anything in there for physical fitness. Maybe it was.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, I didn't.
No, and that would be a, I'd have to check with our labor attorney to find out if that's something that it would have to be negotiated. So there's certain aspects that have to, if it's in there, it has to be negotiated. And then there are certain things that have to be negotiated. So, but there again, New York State sets the standards. Division of Criminal Justice Services, they set the standards, and once you meet those standards, there's like, I don't know of any, there is agencies that give incentives. So that might be something, gives incentives for people who pass, running or whatever. I know the sheriff's department used to do that. That they had an incentive to run the mile or the mile and a half. And there was a monetary award if they kept their physical fitness up and that. So that maybe is that what maybe we're thinking on, Vernon, going some
Yes.
that route maybe?
I was thinking along that route, but I was just curious because, well, I'm only familiar with the military aspect of a physical fitness and what we're required to do. I'm not sure of the civilian aspect. I don't know if that's information that would be privy, but I mean, if I go to the academy and I come out and I go and join one of the organizations and I become a police officer, hell, I could have asked my uncle to, do you requal every year? Are you required to requal every year? Is there a certain level or expectation that you're required to have in order to maintain the physical, the appearance, so forth? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, I don't recall any of that, the physical fitness stuff, but there is, I believe there is a process if you do become unfit, that you can, the city has a right now that if we feel an employee, any employee becomes unfit, that we have a process that we can send them to a doctor. Okay, and I believe there's a process that they have, and I may be getting mixed up here with civil service now, but we have that process. We can send them to a doctor if we feel they are unfit to perform their duties, and then have them evaluated by a doctor, and they would have due process as that process would move along. And there is a section in civil service law, and I'm drawing, it's Article 76, I believe, or something like that, that if you become unfit for duty, that you can have that type of, it's either an Article 75 or 76. You can have a hearing, and then you can be you could actually be terminated if it's it's a lengthy process, but you could actually be terminated if it's found that you are unfit to continue on. So
Good memory, Mayor. 75 and 76 both cover that.
all right, thank you. Go ahead, Darryl.
Vernon, thank you. Vernon, what is the expectation in the military for standard, fitness requirement? I'm just curious.
You have to maintain appearance as in your uniform. This is strictly Marine Corps. And as far as the physical aspect, you have to requal every year, and there are certain exercises that you have to do. And those exercises are graded according to a chart. For instance, pull-ups, in order to get 100, you have to do 20. If you only did 10, you're going to get 50 or less, or something like that. So you have to be able to perform the 3-mile run. In order to get a 100, you have to get there in 18 minutes. If you get there after 30, you pretty much fail. I think 28 minutes is around 50 points, something like that. But the goal is to reach 300 points is the max. I cannot remember what the minimum amount of points were, but
0.
yeah.
You're a slug.
But the goal is to try and get as the highest score you can get, and it plays a role into your promotions and so forth. It's about your well-being, your livelihood, the things of that nature when you're competing against your fellow men. So,
And each of those standards are based on gender and age.
Yes.
So that plays into it as well, and it's a yearly thing. So there's also a height and weight standard as well, and also a percentage of body fat that is used as well. And so you have to maintain that as long as you're on active duty.
Thanks.
Michael?
Now, let's keep in mind, we have several veterans here. Soldiers, Marines, airmen, seamen, they weren't just said, okay, once a year you're going to do this. No, every morning, depending on the service and depending on where you're stationed, you're mandated to do PT,
right?
To maintain that shape and to get in that thing. So let's keep that in mind as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that same standard was set across for police force, but I mean, that was just an assumption, so I don't know.
Yeah. Unless individual departments have certain standards, and then sometimes they're covered contractually and all that, but a lot of times they are incentive driven. But it's it's something to consider, because everybody thinks that I'm overweight. I'm just too short. So
hence the height weight.
I should be 7'8". So so who else had their hand up that I missed?
JR, and then I wanted to say something.
JR, go ahead.
Aaron.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask earlier when you were going back over everything, what was going to be the actual process of moving forward, setting some of these things physically? I know you're keeping like a running tab or whatever, and then just correct me if I'm wrong, you're gonna basically structure it, and then after that, what will we do? Review it and then offer up revisions?
Yeah, this is actually, I met today with Chief Richardson and Mike Marshfelder and my secretary, and we're actually going to start to structure a plan based on what we've gone through so far. And then next week, I was going to discuss a timeline of getting this done. And, we still have to solicit some public comment. Then we have to take it to the Common Council and for a vote to move forward and then get it to the governor's office. So if I've kind of done a little, and we can talk about it a little bit right now. So we have one more meeting this month, and then we have 4 meetings in February. And then we have potentially 4 more meetings in March. So a tentative schedule was to start to put together a plan. Committee review the plan. And then come up with a tentative plan, review it, then come up with a final plan. Final plan probably the 1st of March. Have public comment, and then let's see, the council will be meeting in the 9th and the 23rd. So we'd like to have public comment probably starting with the week of the 8th of March. And this is just tentative. Take public comment and then review the public comment, and then give it, we'd have the, and we can always, schedule a couple of extra meetings if we have to, review public comment and then come up with our final product or final to have to the Common Council by the 23rd for their adopting it. And then we can get it sent off to the state.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, no, I just wanted to ask and get an idea.
Yeah, so next week, I'll have a better timeline. I'll put together a timeline and we can discuss it there, okay? So I mean, we've talked about an awful lot, and I think we've got a lot that of things that can be made better, and as we're moving along here. So just remember what we're doing. This committee is doing is going to be making recommendations to the Common Council for where we're going to go with the police department. And I know the review board is we still have to talk a little bit more about that, and that would be a recommendation. So everything we've been talking about, we're going to try to put this all together in a verbal as part of the report. The minutes of these meetings. I actually have my secretary is actually listening to the meetings and putting together, more so than what Vern is doing, which is appreciated. She's going to put together regular minutes that we'll submit. Planning on putting together the minutes from the 3 town hall meetings we had back several months ago. There's a lot of things came out in there, and we'll put a part of this will also be everything that we've shared with you. Now, obviously, we're not going to print out every single policy, but we'll put that that the policies were made available to the committee by this process, giving you access to the, that, so things like that that we're planning on putting in here, and then the recommendations will be in there, and then we'll move forward from there. So, go ahead, Karen.
Was it, somebody remind me, was there a community outreach or community relation piece in this assignment? I cannot remember, and I know we skipped a rock on
Yes.
neighborhood watch, came up briefly, but
Yeah,
it was
there
a
is,
topic we were supposed to address.
there is community outreach, and that's what we're gonna do when we take, well, actually, the community outreach is every one of you. You've been, you represent different aspects of our community, but we also want to take public comment. So we're gonna have to have a period of time to take public comment, and then as a committee, we will review that public comment. So.
And how do we do that over Zoom?
We're not gonna, my thoughts would be, and correct me if you want, if I'm wrong, you could, my thoughts would be is we'll put together a tentative plan. We'll get it out there and have the public submit, comments by either email or like that. Thoughts?
You don't want to do a town hall like we did over the summer?
Would have to be by Zoom.
Yeah, 'cause it's too dangerous. It's too dangerous. Yeah. I mean, pandemic wise, it's too dangerous. Too many people are catching it.
Mhm.
Right,
fast.
right. Last time we did, we met all the governor's standards and guidelines. I was just asking,
Mhm. We could do a town hall Zoom meeting. But, I guess my thoughts there is, and I'm not opposed to it, but, we could be here for several hours. Or do we just want to take, comments and then review them that way there?
We're kind of diminishing dialogue, I guess, if we do the email. So I guess as long as people are concise on what they're submitting.
Mhm. Anybody else have thoughts on that?
Mayor, I'm all for the Zoom. I mean, like you said, we're gonna have to dedicate a lot of time for comment for the ones that can ramble, and everyone else to get their point across. But we can set the time limit like we do for the council meetings. But I think we're gonna have to allot some time for that. And if we have a huge turnout, then we'll sit back, listen, and prepare to jot down some thoughts and ideas.
Yeah, that might be the better way to do it, because it'll be recorded too, so we can always refer back to it. Yeah, yeah. So, go ahead, Ken.
If you did a Zoom meeting, could you utilize a format where people can come onto the Zoom, but questions are done only by putting questions in the chat room, and then you respond to the questions that are in the chat room, rather than to have like maybe 20, 30, 40 people all trying to get questions verbally into the Zoom?
Well, I don't think we'd be, I guess we'd want to hear their comments on the plan. So do we want to answer questions, or just take their comments and then in a meeting respond or talk about their concerns and their comments and like that? Or do you want to I don't know if we want to get into a back and forth.
I think we want to have a full meeting where everybody has their voices heard. I agree, we should set a time limit of a couple of hours, 2.5 hours. And then I don't know enough about the Zoom technology, but hopefully there's a way where you can mute everybody and, call on people with their statement and then allow them to have the floor and then continue. So Mayor, you may have your work cut out for you.
Well, it'd be similar to what we do now with an actual common council meeting. we would do it as a Zoom webinar. And where everybody can come in, and we would be the panelist. Okay, everybody here would be the panelist. And then the guest they could come in, and as they raise their hand, it would, it's right now, if you look at the participant panel, and if you raise your hand, yeah, JR, raise your hand so they can see that, would you please? He's good at that.
I guess
Okay, you see the hand there?
Nope.
Okay, then you would just give them, we can give them, 3 minutes or whatever, 5 minutes or whatever you want to do. And then we can just go down through and make sure everybody has an opportunity to say that. But we'd have to
Daryl
put the
suggested a
plan.
couple of hours.
What's that?
I think Daryl suggested a couple of hours. I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna filibuster all night long.
But
But
we'd
we
have to
can-
put go ahead there, I'm sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure you have the capacity to mute everybody, so that, somebody, often people forget to
Yeah.
unmute a microphone and all those things. You have that technical facility where you can ensure that happens, because if you can do that, this should go smoothly.
Yeah. Actually, I believe the host has the capability of, if somebody were to start getting nasty, you can actually just, shut them off, so.
Wow.
Yeah, so, but, yeah, that's probably a better way to do it. But we would have to, publish the tentative plan ahead of time. And that's, we could put that out on the social media. We'll get we can get Bob Clark involved from the Times Herald, so we can get that avenue going there, so. Go ahead, Vernon.
So Mayor, I guess we're looking at mid-February then for having this completed so that we could do that and allow enough time for it to get to the media
Yeah,
in order to get the people notified.
yeah, so. We could
And
have
we
it
won't
done,
be fielding questions.
huh?
We won't be fielding questions, just
Uh,
allowing them to provide their feedback.
I think so. I think if we start fielding questions, we may get all, I think we want to go at this as a body. And then we can, as a body, discuss the issues that people are having.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Has anybody here been to a city council meeting and spoke?
Yes.
When you
Yes.
go to the city council meeting and you speak, and then you ask the panelists or whoever you're speaking to, when you ask them a question and then you get silence, you walk away from that meeting feeling some type of way. So I would suggest that if people ask us questions, I mean, this is for the community. So if the people are asking us questions, I think that it's only right for us to answer those questions. I understand that it might take us long, but like, who are we doing this for, us or them?
I have to kind of jump in with Ty on this. I was going to say, well, if maybe they make their comments and then the following day, following week, we reply, but they have to be felt like they're heard and that we're responding to them. It's one thing just to say something. And I know that during the common council meetings, that's not the job of the common council is to be replying. Their job is to listen and then discuss it offline. And so it does give an air of, well, they're not really paying attention or listening. And probably in the past, some council members weren't. But there has to be some means or format for us to communicate with them. I totally agree with that. Whether it's at that point and we do a marathon 8-hour day, or it's following week, we reply back and let somebody who's the area expert in that topic discuss.
I agree. I would Ty, and I think there should be a dialogue. And hopefully a lot of people will just be making statements that are for our consideration. And but if there's a question, I think it should be answered by whoever on the panel feels most capable of answering and addressing that issue right away.
Yeah, Bill, I was just going to suggest that, for instance, if we have like a 10-point plan, this is going to be a cumbersome public comment, I would anticipate, as Ty's, talking about. Why not just schedule like 5 points on one night and regulate the comments to those 5 points for a Q&A and even an answer back. And then the next week, then do the other 5 points again, if it's 10 points, and just, they have to be on that, and then a 5-minute time limit, just restrict them to those 5 points. So that way you can have some level of back and forth.
Yeah, we could do that, but just consider this, that, okay, I've been on a lot of panels in my life and discussing different things. And, I ran the state of New York Police Juvenile Officers for 10 years. And when you, as a committee, if we're coming to a consensus on a tentative plan, then the worst thing we can do is if we're answering questions, then we have to be on a unified front. We can't have any, I guess you would say, different of opinions in the committee. We can't have me saying one thing and then everybody else saying something different. That only shows that we have, we didn't come together as a committee. So we'll have to, that's something we should continue to discuss there.
And I get your point there, Bill, but to get 22 people on a committee to have a complete consensus is also, foolhardy. There's going to be some level of compromise. Everybody's not going to agree 100% with the plan. So I'm just saying, just so that way, it's going to be a cumbersome task, just trying to get it and then still appreciate their input with that back and forth via time limit.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes. So I have to echo, I guess, with JR. We may not be totally in agreement on some things. And also a community member might bring up something that we haven't even discussed or thought about. And so we may need to change our position on something based on what they bring to the table. But I think if we do have an organized format like JR is putting out, that we know the topics that we want to change or address or reform or whatever it might be. If there's 5 topics that we know and the next one is 5, there might be a time that's an open time as well where for community members to bring up topics that we haven't necessarily addressed because we've all got blinders on.
Yeah, I think the important thing is having an open discussion with good faith and coming together and hearing everybody out. I think we're all in this for the same reason, to achieve justice and improve things. And I think that will be heard by the people.
Okay. Vernon?
Yeah, so with all of that being said, I think now we're at a point where we need to decide if we need to have something done within the next 2-3 weeks. And then when we present it to the public, give that time frame that's allotted. And then when we present it to the public, maybe we should do multiple nights consecutively, maybe, if that's possible. I mean, if you do it over a couple of weeks, we're only putting ourselves closer to the deadline. And if there is information that we need to tweak, go over, something we may have missed, then that allows us time in between to do that and then come back before we go through the final steps and then bring it to the council.
That sounds good to me. So we've got one more meeting in this month here. So for the next meeting, I can put together a tentative timeline. We can talk about it. I think we'll also be ready with maybe a partial plan to talk about. And we can put together a timeline. And yeah, if we have to go multiple nights, I'm not opposed to that. The equity and inclusion, they meet on Wednesdays, but we can go, we can fit that, they go every other week. So we could actually do Wednesday, Thursday, a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. We could even do a Tuesday night later after the council meeting usually goes you know, an hour, hour and a half, so we could do that. So
I require overtime on that, Mayor.
wait till you see my overtime bill.
Mayor, can we add on that we'll accept written questions and comments? Not everybody has the technology,
Oh,
so to
yeah.
speak, with the links that would be submitted to your office, you know, by mail or phone or whatever, email.
Yeah,
Just so we have a second avenue to make sure we get as much response as possible.
yeah, we
It
can
may
do
cut
that.
down and listen to the comments.
That's a good
My
idea.
gosh, I think I can say everything I need to say in 2 minutes. So, you know, you start giving them 5 and 10 minute sessions, you're gonna get long periods of time.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So, well, we could talk about how many minutes we're gonna give them, and that can be part of the, you know, there. So we can move forward, so. All right, we got somewhat of a plan here. At least a time, take the, of a timeline. And I think the last several meetings, we've been doing good. We've been a lot of good discussion. Everybody's involved, so we can go from there. So anything else you want to discuss tonight? JR, go ahead.
So so for next week, then you have on the agenda, just asking the clarification on the vascular neck restraint chokehold conversation and then the review board, correct?
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna have Mary O'Leary here first to talk about mental health issues.
Yeah, then after that though, so that way the two
And
conversations can be had.
we'll have the chokehold law will be sent out to everybody, and we'll probably rely on those of you who have some expertise in that. Barry, Vernon, whoever
Vicky.
else, you know, talk about that. And then we will have a tentative, not a tentative, but we're starting to put together a plan that we can review a little bit and then come up with our timeline. So,
Yeah, sounds good. Just, I know those are kind of two hot topics that people wanted to make sure we got done before our wrapped up here.
yeah, we want to talk about the review board. And what else do we have here?
I think that should be it. Let's not backtrack.
Yeah, it'll be summarized and we'll put it out there, so.
Tasers.
Tasers, yes.
Yeah.
And we also want to talk about WWF.
WWE now. Yeah.
I remember it was
right.
WWF.
You know, in one of my most disappointing moments of all time, I went to get some wrestling playing cards and I opened it up and there was a panda bear and a koala. And I was so disappointed because of the World Wildlife Foundation cards when I was a kid. So, you know, they changed their name because they were sued by the World Wildlife Foundation, but they might have gotten that backwards.
No. Oh, no.
Remember the one, wait a minute, I'm gonna remember the animal? They brought him out on a leash.
George the Animal Steel?
Yep.
He was a character. An English professor, I think.
I put out today, for those of you who are Buffalo Bills fans, you know, we're gonna let people hang Buffalo Bills, you know, flags, banners, posters on the fence at Bradner Stadium and build up some community support there. If you're not a Buffalo Bills fan, you know, we'll still let you hang Buffalo Bills stuff up if you wanna. So, but
Go Bills.
you know, it's quite a feat this year. You know, they're in the AFC, or they're in the actually the AFC final, and we'll keep our fingers. I'm superstitious, so I'm not saying anything about going beyond that. We got to win this game first, and we'll go from there. So, but at the city building tomorrow is where everybody's that are Bills supporters are going to wear apparel, and we'll be taking another picture tomorrow here. So we got a lot of Bills fans here in the city building. So Anybody else have anything for the good of the committee? Okay, so thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Like
good
I
night,
said,
guys.
like I
Everybody,
said
good night.
last week,
Have a good
you know,
time.
I'm really enjoying this. I think everybody's contributing and a lot of good comments, a lot of good things. And I know we're all here for a better Olean. So
Yeah.
thank you all again. And we will see you next week.
Okay.
Hi.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
So-
Hey,
Stay
Captain
safe.
and Chief, I'll give you guys a call.
what's that?
I said Captain and Chief, I'm gonna give you guys a call.
Okay.
Right now?
Not right now,
Okay.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Good night.
You can give me a call too, okay?
Yes, sir, I will. Thank
All right,
you.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Have a good night, everybody.
Night.
You
Good
too.
night, everybody. Thank you.